Campaign 2012 continues. It's the morning show with Preston Scott, 100.7 FM WFLA. District 7 is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting.
A lot of candidates wanting your attention, and one of them is our next guest. He, too, a Republican running for District 7, which is in the State House. And joining us is Mike Williams. Mike, good morning. Welcome to the morning show.
Good morning, Preston. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your professional background.
Well, Preston, I grew up over in Madison. I'm a fifth-generation North Floridian. I've been a small business owner all my life. All my adult life, I've owned retail stores, men's and ladies' clothing store, feed and farm supply business, 2 Sears dealer stores, and currently I sold those in 2008, and I'm a financial advisor at this point.
I hear from the candidates that have been on the show thus far, Mike, that are on the Republican side of the ticket. Almost all of them have a small business background. I think all of them do in one form or another. And is there a message being communicated here that small business people are getting out and saying, I've got to get in the mix and try to do something?
Well, I think so. I think we've allowed others to determine what our future is going to be for a long time, and we finally decided that we've got to determine our own future and get into the mix and make the policy that's going to be acceptable so that we can survive as business owners and that we can create the jobs for the state of Florida that the people are asking for.
The website is Mike4, Florida.com. That's where you can get campaign information on Mike Williams, Republican candidate for the District 7 State House seat. Mike, what's tops on your list? If you get elected, what's the most important thing that you're going to turn your attention to?
Well, I think there's a couple of items. First of all, the economy is what is really suffering, and we've got to reduce and streamline some regulations so that business owners can create jobs and that people can get back to work and we can turn our economy around. I think also to try to make sure that Obamacare does not become law in Florida and reduce the impact of that as much as we possibly can is the other thing that we'll really be focusing our attention on.
One of the things that I've talked an awful lot about on this program, Mike, is the impact that, whether it comes from the federal level or from a state level, the impact of raising the minimum wage. And we've gotten this new kind of trendy vogue language that we want it to be a living wage. You know, I'm not the sharpest knife in any drawer of any knives anywhere, Mike, but at what point did we stop this from becoming a minimum wage? It's an entry level. This is how you get trained and you learn about working, to where now we're supposed to be paying people a living wage for an entry level job.
Well, I think that's just the progression that we've seen of the left over the years. You know, it's just a change in mantra to try to broaden the scope and the reach of what the government can and what they believe they should be dictating to businesses and to individuals, and how the government's going to take care of them. And that's simply not plausible. It doesn't hold up over the long term. You've got every job in America is worth X number of dollars, and when the requirement that you pay more than that amount of dollars goes beyond the X, then the job has to go away because it simply economically cannot exist.
And doesn't it have the trickle-down impact of killing the teenage job market? Because,
certainly.
I mean,
certainly.
You and I think probably both grew up, and you had little odd jobs where someone would give you a job making a couple bucks an hour, and that was great experience.
If I recall correctly, my first job was $5 a day.
What were you doing?
Cropping tobacco.
Okay, all right. What can the state do? I asked Halsey this question. I asked our other guests, Don Curtis, Jamie Westbrook, the same question. Within the confines of what the federal government puts and imposes on states, what can a state do? What can you as a state lawmaker do to create a better environment for creating jobs, for bringing that certainty? Well,
I think first and foremost, we have to reestablish state sovereignty. That's something that we've gotten away from in this country over the years, is the fact that Florida is a sovereign state. We are not a political subdivision of the United States, and that's a philosophical concept that we've got to reestablish in our state, and we've got to go beyond that. Then we've got to make sure that, as on our level that we're keeping the regulations as reasonable as we possibly can, and reducing as many and eliminating where there are duplications and other things to allow the job creators to do what they do best, and that's serve their customers, manufacture their products, whatever their job is, so that they can build those jobs and grow their businesses.
Another strong candidate for Florida House District 7, Mike Williams, with us this morning on the morning show. Mike, you've got listed on your website as a priority education. Now, boy, you talk about a hot potato. Give me some just a little perspective of where you are on this in terms of why it's a campaign issue for you. From what perspective, what will you be advocating?
Well, I think that from my background, I'm serving currently as the chairman of the Board of Trustees at North Florida Community College, and I've had 2 children that graduated from public schools, and I've got 2 grandchildren that will soon be attending schools. So, I'm concerned about education and the direction of education. I personally believe that the classroom teacher, nothing else matters if we don't get it done in the classroom. We don't need administrators. We don't need anything else in the school system if we're not getting it done in the classroom. So I think the classroom teacher should be in my philosophy, should be the highest paid person in the school. It should be a job where people work to get to rather than work to get out of. We see a trend in our schools that good teachers are trying to get into administration or some other aspect of education rather than remaining where the rubber hits the road in the classroom. And we're taking people who are fresh out of college that may be very qualified, but they don't have some of the experiences necessarily that enables them to unlock the learning door for every child in the classroom. So I think that paying our teachers well is necessary. I think rewarding the teachers who perform at high levels and do so consistently is very necessary to ensure that we have the best people in the classroom.
Mike Williams, candidate for Florida House District 7, our guest on the morning show. Mike, is it possible to do that while we still have class size amendment in play? Because, as you well know, that's bled roughly $22, $23, maybe even $24 billion for brick and mortar in something that statistically really hasn't been proven to make any difference.
Well, I think you're right. That is going to be a challenge, and that's one of the problems with constitutional amendments is they sound good when you read them on paper, but when you put them into practice, then they really create some unintended consequences. And so that's why I'm very cautious and typically don't vote in favor of many constitutional amendments, because I think it's a poor way to legislate through the Constitution. I think that's something that should be held very sacred and change on very rare occasions. And, if you change something at the legislative level, if it's bad, you can go back and correct it next year. Getting a 60% vote to correct a constitutional amendment that's bad will be a very big challenge.
15 minutes away from the top of the hour. Mike, stand by. We're going to check weather from the Weather Channel.
We've got rain in the forecast the next several days. Most of the wet weather, though, holding off until later this afternoon. Will be partly cloudy today, a few thunder showers, 92, and a few thunder showers tonight, 74. I'm Terry Smith from the Weather Channel on WFLA.
Mike Williams is my guest. He's a Republican candidate for the Florida House District 7 seat. Of course, reapportionment has taken its toll, and Mike, you've got a district that's the size of China, it seems like. How do you get that done? How do you find a way to make yourself relevant in all of the counties that are in this district?
Well, it is extremely large and diverse, 7,200 square miles, and you have coastal interest, inland interest, education, a lot of different things going on within our district. But when you break it down, you really have a collection of small counties that have similar needs. They all need jobs. The people there are typically small business owners, regardless of whether they're fishermen, farmers, or whether they actually own retail or manufacturing businesses. They're small business owners. So they have the same core needs of reducing regulations, keeping the taxes low, and making sure that we in government prioritize our spending and cut the waste out of government so that we can do that and they can create the jobs that and run their businesses.
Mike Williams with us, candidate for District 7. Let's talk for just a second about the state worker. Give me your thoughts on Governor Rick Scott's decision to make changes to the retirement plan.
Well, I think that we have to, first of all, make sure that the retirement program is good actuarially for a long period of time. We had some years where we had some high returns within the portfolio, but that's not something that you can count on consistently over a 20 or 30-year period, and that's what you have to look at when you're looking at a retirement pension program. So I think there may be some changes that need to be made, but I think it should be made for the new employee coming on, not for those who are already in the system. And that's the way I'll approach it if we need to make changes once we've investigated it. And that's kind of some of my background as a financial advisor, is making sure that helping people make sure that their retirement funds last as long as they last. So I have a background in that, and we'll be able to work with the governor, hopefully, and make something that will be acceptable to the current state workers, and the new deal will be for the new people coming on, and everybody will be able to be rest assured that their paycheck or their retirement check will be in the mail when they retire 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now.
Even though I'm a big fan of Governor Rick Scott, I think he's going to lose this one. I think the court's going to settle it for everybody. But let's talk about Governor Scott for just a quick moment, Mike. Give me your appraisal of the job he's done since taking office.
Well, he's had some tough decisions to make, and he comes from a different background of where what he says goes, and he doesn't have to deal with the legislature and public opinion and those kind of things. And I think he's learned a little more about how to do that and to get consensus maybe in some areas before he makes the decision. So I think he's improved as he's gone. There's been some things that obviously he's a man just like I am, and he's made some good decisions. He's made some others that probably could have been better. But I think overall he's done a good job, and I think the state's headed in the right direction.
If I were to ask you to summarize in 60 seconds why someone ought to pick you over your competitors, why would that be?
Well, I have a very broad background of experience, and I've served outside of my profession where most of my competitors have served just within their profession. I've served on the planning council, the college board of trustees, several other areas where I have no opportunity for economic benefit. Most of their service has been within their area of vocation and where they have economic gain. Preston, when I was growing up on a farm, I had some cousins from the city that would come to visit from time to time, and they always called me Big Mike. Now, I was a couple of years older than they were, but the reason they called me Big Mike is because they trusted that I would look after their interest. They were in an environment that was different from what they were accustomed to, and they knew I would look out for what was best for them. I'd warn them about any danger, and I'd always be honest with them. So they always called me Big Mike. That's how I was raised by my parents, and that's what I've learned by going to church and studying God's Word. But I've tried to live my life that way as an adult as well. And whether it's with my family, in my business, looking after my customers, being firm but fair with my suppliers, even in my public pursuits of and appointed positions, and looking out for the people that I'm appointed to serve. Now, really, that's just the golden rule. But, there's some in the world that believe that the golden rule means that he who has the gold makes the rules. And there will be some in this campaign that will use big money to fill the airwaves and mailboxes full of false promises and exaggerated claims of service. But in this race, they really only have two choices. They can either vote for big money or they can vote for Big Mike.
Oh, look at you. That was very clever there. Mike, thanks for the time this morning, my friend. We hope to have you back before the primary.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Mike Williams, our guest, candidate for House District 7, Republican primary, a full field. Interesting race. That's going to be a fascinating outcome. No runoff in the primary, folks. Plurality wins. Not sure if anyone's going to get a majority in that one. I don't know. But that's going to be a really good race. All right, 52 minutes after the hour.